Hey everybody, it's Mick Levinskas here from Climate Salad, and I am wonderfully happy to have the pleasure again to speaking to Anastasia from Regrow. Although last time we spoke, you were with Fluorosat, and your company's gone through some big changes. We met a number of years ago, and you've just had some incredible growth and progress, hard work. But Anastasia, lovely to chat to you again.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to have you on your role as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'd love to tell a little bit of the story. I know there's been a fair bit published recently based on your capital raise, but I think it's important for people not to focus too much on that, more focus on what you did to deserve it, to grow the company to that point. And I'd also love to hear your thoughts on, from when you started to now, what's changed in the world around the problem space you're in? Because it seems like there's been a lot changed in terms of attitudes and perceptions, and how has that changed your work life in terms of hiring, getting customers, and just your general life?
Yes, absolutely. So when we met back in, I think 2017, that was back when you were actually exiting Miradi, that was interesting. So you kind of got me signed up, and then you had to head off, which was unexpected for me, that you and Annie just head out of the door. It's like, okay. So the journey of Fluorosat started then. And the problem I was really looking at solving and applying my know-how to was the problem of waste in agriculture, but not the food waste, the resource use in agriculture. So really the fact that somehow farmers are using too much fertilizer in the field, more than they have to, and that is, of course, like getting just the money out of the pockets and spraying them on the fields. And it was unclear to me, how can we really prevent that from happening? How can we focus more on the environmental side of the advantages they can reap if they had more resilient and self-rejuvenating systems in soils and less dependent on synthetic fertilizer? It's also something that was quite important for me, because I personally feel very strongly about climate change as a problem, and warming up the planet, as well as getting the water in the lakes full of blooming algae, is all of the things that agriculture has a little bit to do with. So with my experience in using remote sensing or satellite imagery and writing software, there was like a solution that was hacked together, and we took it to Australian agronomists and understood that they were really keen to have more data-driven decisions, but it took us a long journey to discover and rediscover and reinvent the business model and the whole model of innovation behind the business. I fundamentally believe you shouldn't be a hammer on the lookout for a nail. You should really be in love with your problem, not with your solution. So the problem is the waste. The problem is the environmental impact of farming. The problem is that we can make different, better, environmentally better decisions if we had better information to make them with, and that fundamentally impacts all sorts of food production. So when we started, the fertilizer waste problem, or the kind of overuse of fertilizer, was not necessarily a problem that was economically easy to solve, because farmers treat it as an insurance. It's better to be on the side where you kind of overpay a little bit just to make sure you don't miss your harvest targets if it's a good year. I think now, when the industry and the whole planet really has gone through COVID, has gone through disruptions of supply chain, through climate change induced natural disasters that happen more frequently just in the last 5 years since we started the business. I think the big market, the capital, has really pivoted its focus and started focusing more on ESG and ESG related, environmental, social governance of corporates. It really meant that the food and agri-food supply chains started not just looking at agriculture is all about production and the output is what we want, but really the consumer matured and the industry started to respond to the signals of producing food in a more green way, producing the food that is healthier for the planet as it is for the people who are eating it. It's not just about plant-based diets that also are very heavily connected to climate impact of the food, but it also is about how we produce food and how we reward the farmers. So when we took the business out of Australia and really started scaling it globally, I met last year, so that was like on our growth curve. I met the business that was is based in on the east coast of the United States called Dagan. We were fortunate enough to see our future together, and Fluoresat acquired Dagan. We merged two companies into one that we called Regrow, to regrow the potential of agriculture to heal the planet. That's why it's Regrow. And since then, it's been a fantastic blast. So we announced the merger in February. We released new joint products. We have amazing customers adopting them. We effectively merged the best of agronomy with the best of sustainability, and we have a really good business case for it, and it's the right time in the market. So I'm really pleased that the timing worked out as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's I remember you first telling the story. There was a lot of about the business and what you wanted to solve, you have always been obsessed on the problem, even though you had at least a concept of the technology that could solve that in advance. But it's been really interesting to see your commitment to that ahead of the full value being appreciated. So I think this is one of the challenges for entrepreneurs is to I'm sure you regularly faced people who sort of said, "Oh, that's not a big enough problem," or is that even really a problem at all? Like, so what if there is too much fertilizer, like farmers can handle it, and blue and green algae in some pond somewhere, why does that affect me? But that shift has really happened and has made your problem bigger and more tangible. And that's I think it's amazing to see on the other side of that now that you're able to. So your timing has been again quite good. So yeah, well done for persevering through that. Acquiring the company is an interesting one. A lot of some entrepreneurs think, oh, my goal is to be acquired, and they don't see acquisition. They get obsessed about capital raising. They don't see acquisition as a possible tool for growth. Can you tell us a bit about how did you always think that might be a way you could do it, or did you just slowly build a relationship? Because it could have been kind of competitive as well, right? So interested to see how you started that and how you knew that was going to be a good partnership.
Yeah, so I would say that the pathways to good acquisitions are definitely by understanding the vision of the company that either you have as a CEO or a founder, or painting it with your team, because I think that's what helped us to make the acquisitions that we've made. Once first in Australia of the Production Wise platform from grain growers, and then earlier this year of Dagan as an independent company. So the opportunity there was for us to achieve our mission faster, to get to the point we want to get to faster. But it's important to know where you're going in order to understand what's going to derail you or what's going to accelerate you. Of course, it's not the case with the first acquisition because there was no COVID back then, but especially recently in the industry, in at least agricultural technology, we can really see a lot of acquisitions because there's a consolidation in the space. There's definitely a big impact, but the ROI of that impact, where the money is actually made in the business models that are supported by technology, can be shifting. Like for us, it shifted from precision agronomy to sustainability use cases. It shifted from agriculture supply chain into the food supply chain for us. So we were agile enough and persistent enough to keep pursuing this goal until we really hit the product market fit. And for us to complete that product market fit, we needed this additional capability that we started building in-house. And when we met someone who had it developed to a much greater degree, and we realized that they were in a position where they were on the lookout for additional members on the team, including the leadership, including the CEO. They were hiring for a CEO. And that was just a beautiful match where they're part of the team and our team were complementary. Our technologies, our models are complementary. And our overall vision is the same vision. So there's so many aspects to an acquisition of another team. It is about the culture fit, it's about the same mission, it is about the same view of what the company should do, product or consulting or other operations. So all of these things need to align, and it's worth going out there and looking for alignment.
That's amazing. It's a really good story, and I hope that more entrepreneurs consider those kind of merging partnership acquisition opportunities, because I really think it can make a good impact. And I'm glad you mentioned the culture fit as well. I think it's not, there are a lot of aspects to get right in that. Did you, in terms of your growth in customers, did you find customers initially, some big customers who were like, well, can I just white label you, or I only want this part? Like when you're early on in terms of your product market fit, and some big customers might question the proposition or how do they use you, were there times you had to say no to opportunities in order to focus, or was it always just hard enough just to find any customers?
Definitely, Nick, you've probably seen this play out a couple of times with other companies, but there is certainly a time where until you're established enough, companies do feel like they can white label your solution, or they want to kind of pull it apart. And part of our thesis has not just been that we're proud to stand on our own. Not really, it's just that we want to be scalable, and to have scalable technology and product, you need to have one, and then you use it for all the different reasons, rather than having to support now multiple copies that are colored differently or skinned differently. Like, that's not something we wanted to do from this more of a psychological perspective and scalability of the business of how would we scale if we had to have our team support all different platforms that don't actually pair back together. So there's definitely, there were times when we had to say no, and to say, well, I see fluorescence or platform only in green and not in this other color you're suggesting, because it's independent, not because I like green, but because it is the way it is. But there's also been opportunities where we understand that our platform, our user interface is not the only tool that the customers and the end beneficiaries can access us. So we deliberately built our tech stack as the engine where we invested in the capabilities, into the modeling, into something you can API into, because every industry has too many platforms already, and you really need to be steady about how you import the data, integrate it, pass it through your loops of adding value, and export it back out. So it's an interesting balance where we at the same time are saying no to white labeling, and are perfectly happy to be a platform as a service, MRV as a service, as we are now. The functions of measurement, reporting, and verification of practices can be on demand, on tap via API.
Yeah, that's great. They're really important questions around what do you integrate, what is core, and do you want to be a integral part of the product? What are things you partner on? What are things you say no to? And there are a lot of product decisions, and I think it does come back to your big vision, and also the focus on solving that problem. Last question is around the team. Obviously, when you started, it was a very, very small team, and you've been growing out and going through various stages. Any comments about different approaches at different stages of the business? I know you've got a lot more growth to do, especially on the back of this capital raise. But any comments about how your team leadership has evolved?
Yes, certainly. I would say it's important to have your generals with you on the journey, and to have the right ones. And I personally believe in business and in life, in relationships that make sense. They should make sense naturally, and it should be a good fit, that your senior leadership team really backs you as a CEO or a founder, or if you're not finding that that's the best place for you to play, where else you can play and add most value. So this is really a very important decision of how you build the team and how you grow it. And the people who've built the company with me thus far are the people who are going to stay in it, and they have such critical roles, and their roles will evolve, and they will always be doing something amazing, something fun, something new, something interesting, or scaling. They have their own personal growth and their journey. And as a leader of the organization, you need to understand what journey do they want to see in front of themselves and building the team for that future. So it's not just about who are my leadership team now, but really where do I see them being at their strongest, and where they want to grow and where they do not want to grow. And I actually need the strength in that area. How can I bring it in? Because that intergenerational change, it can be from a capital raise to a capital raise. It can be between initial senior leadership of the company, or just the people who you had around the table who need to evolve. I think there's many changes, and they're very significant. When you start in the company, you have the team that you have, and I just want to normalize this experience that you don't need to stick with that team if that's not working as you're pivoting and iterating, because some of the parts of it will be critical to really make things happen, and it will naturally kind of stay there. But there is no kind of silver bullet here of you come into this and your first hire on sales or on technology or on somewhere else is the best hire. Like you really need to, I believe, keep yourself to a high standard and keep working, keep iterating and seeing where's the best opportunity for the company to make an impact, for everyone personally to make an impact, and how to really realize their personal genius. Like that's what I believe in. Like the talent, it comes and it should realize itself in your organization. You need to know how to help them do that.
It's really great advice for early stage entrepreneurs in the climate tech space. So there's a lot to learn from that. Anastasia, thank you so much. I really appreciate you jumping on from LA and having a chat with us, sharing a bit more of the story. I'm really proud and impressed with how far you've come, how much you've grown it. And we really hope that you have continued success as you regrow. And hopefully we can get you back in Australia for a one-on-one chat sometime soon. But thanks again for sharing your story.
Thank you, Mi, for having me.